we got to dissect this just a little bit, Max, and let me put on my reporter's hat here because, as you know, with my text and all of this other stuff, there's quite a few owners in the league that I speak to, quite a few executives in the league that I speak to, and here's what I've been hearing. Essentially this. Number one, you have a guy in Jerry Jones that looks at Roger Goodell as being, dare I say, one of those autocratic commissioners, an individual that operates unilaterally, that, as opposed to consensus. One of the most popular commissioners in the history of sports, believe it or not, may have been Commissioner Bud Selig of Major League Baseball. I only say that from the perspective that he was perceived as an individual that ruled by consensus. He conferred with and sought the counsel of other owners in the league and reached a conclusion based on what the majority felt per se. And that doesn't seem to be what Roger Goodell does in the eyes of Jerry Jones. Now, there are other owners who are supportive of Roger Goodell who adamantly have disagreed with Jerry Jones, the Arthur Blanks of the world, the Robert Krafts of the world, Jeffrey Lurie's of the world, the Stephen Rosses in Miami of the world, and others. They certainly disagreed with Jerry Jones. I was told that even with the meeting when the owners were conferring with one another, there were individuals who spoke up. I had a couple of owners convey this thought to me. A couple of them spoke up against Jerry Jones in his position because when he was consulting with them, he was repeatedly talking about the money the Dallas Cowboys were losing and how they compromised what was transpiring, whether it was the protest or anything else, was compromising the bottom line of the Dallas Cowboys, and had to be reminded it's not just about you. It's about also those 31 other teams. And so when you look at it from that perspective and you ask the question, how far should Jerry Jones take this? Well, it all depends on what Jerry Jones wants to do. Does he wants to emulate Al Davis, be that maverick, stand alone as the guy against everybody else? Or does he want to be a part of the NFL community in a fashion that speaks of team and cohesiveness and a collective effort on behalf of the league in order to promote the league for the betterment of the league? That's a choice that Jerry Jones has to make. Some would argue that he's a bit compromised. Here's why, Max. I don't know, and maybe a lot of people didn't pay attention to this. Remember when we heard about this tax proposal our president is coming out with and the GOP is supporting but not supporting and all of this other stuff? Well, understand that one of the caveats in the proposal is that you're an owner for an NFL team. You're not going to be able to use taxpayer dollars to fund stadiums and what have you. If you don't do that, that's a problem for NFL owners.
Jerry Jones, been a huge part of their business.
That's right. And Jerry Jones understands that not just because he knows business, but because who's his boy? That would happen to be Donald Trump. So he's aware of what's going on and what's coming down the pike and the residual impact that it may ultimately have. So in Jerry Jones' defense, he may be looking at the big picture. The problem appears to be, Max, that even though he has good insight into the big picture and a good hold on the big picture, he really seems concerned about his picture more so than the big picture. And that's the problem.
His big picture, right. But by the way, what you just mentioned, the autocratic nature, according to some, of Roger Goodell's kind of style, it's funny because he doesn't seem very brave and strong externally in terms of reacting to disclosing information about medical, physical trauma post-NFL career, or the opioid epidemic that also affects NFL locker rooms, or domestic violence, et cetera. He's constantly reacting to that, trying to protect the short-term bottom line, which doesn't seem like a very strong leader. But when it comes to dealing with owners, apparently, he is not enough of a consensus guy, according to what you're hearing. And I've also heard that there are some owners who feel that way. And I'll refer you back to when Bob McNair said the inmates running he didn't say asylum, he said prison, which got a lot of players upset because it seemed as though he was talking about them. My comment that day or the next day when we were on the air was I'm cynical that he wasn't talking about the players. But if he wasn't, that signals that there are some owners, I think Bob McNair and Jerry Jones among them, who look at Goodell and think, I don't know, he thinks his head's getting a little big. We are actually the bosses, not him. And I think, in fact, looking back at it, in retrospect, maybe the players were wrong in their interpretation that McNair was talking about them. Maybe he actually was talking about Goodell, and he represents the Jerry Jones camp, which makes me think it's not just McNair and Jones, but also other owners who feel that maybe Goodell's gotten a little too big for his britches.